The human diplomatic ship Aurora's Echo drifted through the silent darkness above the world of Vixara Prime, its metal hull glowing faintly under the twin moons. Inside, Commander Elias Grant stood before the viewing window, staring down at the alien planet that everyone feared, the home of the Fox Queen, Lady Sarathis. Stories about her had spread through the galaxy like wildfire. They said she was heartless, cold, and cruel. They said she smiled when her enemies begged for mercy. They said she had no soul, no tears, and no pity. Elias had heard them all, but deep inside, he never trusted stories told by frightened soldiers. As the ship began its descent, Elias adjusted his uniform. He was chosen as the human envoy, a symbol of peace after years of war between Earth and the Vixaran Empire. It was supposed to be a routine diplomatic mission, but no one believed that. Not when the woman waiting below had been called the Cold Empress of the Nine Suns. When he stepped out onto the landing platform, the air was sharp and cold. Soldiers of the Fox Queen surrounded him, tall figures in silver armor. With tails that flicked like blades, their eyes followed him closely. Not with hatred, but with caution. They guided him through a palace made of dark crystal and glowing blue veins of energy that pulsed through the walls like blood. At the end of the long corridor, she waited. The Fox Queen, Lady Sarathis, stood upon a throne of black stone. Her golden fur shimmered like fire, her 9 tails curled gracefully behind her, and her piercing amber eyes glowed with ancient intelligence. Commander Elias Grant of Earth, her voice echoed across the hall, soft but powerful. You come to speak of peace after your kind burned half my worlds. Elias bowed his head. I come to speak of a future, not the past. Your Majesty. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. Humans always speak of peace when their fleets are tired, she said quietly. Tell me, Commander, how many of your soldiers wept when they killed my people? Elias looked into her eyes and found no hatred, only emptiness. It was strange, almost frightening, like looking into a void that used to hold light. I can't answer for them, he said softly. But I know some still dream of the screams. The Queen turned away, her tails brushing the floor. Dreams are for the weak, she whispered, and motioned for her guards to escort him to his quarters. Hours later, Elias sat alone in his guest chamber, a cold room made of smooth black stone. He replayed every word she said, trying to understand her. She was calm, precise, unreadable, but there was something behind her voice. Something human, something hurting. As the alien night deepened, the palace grew silent outside his window. The twin moons bathed the alien gardens in pale blue light. Strange flowers opened, releasing faint trails of glowing pollen that drifted like ghosts. He should have been asleep, but something kept him awake. A feeling, a whisper. Then he heard it. At first it was faint. A soft sound carried through the crystal walls. It wasn't machinery, and it wasn't the hum of alien energy. It was something alive, something raw. It was the sound of quiet sobbing. Elias froze, his hand resting on the table. The sound was distant, fragile, like a wounded creature trying not to be heard. He followed it through the hallway, moving quietly, afraid of being caught. The guards were nowhere to be seen, perhaps gone for the night. Or maybe they already knew what he was about to find. He stopped before a half-open door. The sound was clearer now, a voice broken by tears. He peeked inside and saw her, the Fox Queen herself. Sitting alone beside a holographic projection, it showed a small child with golden fur, laughing and chasing a glowing butterfly through a garden. The projection flickered again and again, looping endlessly. The Queen's hands trembled as she touched the image, her claws gentle, her face filled with pain. I'm sorry, she whispered to the fading light. I couldn't protect you. Elias felt his chest tighten. He wanted to look away, but he couldn't. The mighty Fox Queen, the cold ruler feared by empires, Warren was crying, real tears streaming down her face. The stories were wrong. She wasn't heartless. She was broken. He stepped back, his heart pounding. He didn't want her to know he was there. He quietly returned to his room, his mind racing all his life. Elias had been told that aliens like her couldn't feel what humans felt. They said she was a monster, but monsters didn't cry in the dark. As he sat near the window again, he whispered to himself. They said she had no heart. He looked up at the stars above Vixara Prime, but maybe she has the biggest heart of all. The palace remained silent after that. But Elias could not sleep. He had seen something no human ever had. Something forbidden, something true. The next morning, when he faced the Queen again in the grand hall, Her expression was calm and distant, as if nothing had happened, but when her eyes met his for a single heartbeat, he saw it, the same pain, the same loneliness, the same hidden truth she tried to bury beneath her crown. And in that single glance, Elias Grant made a silent promise. He would uncover the truth behind the cold empress, even if it cost him everything. Morning light on Vixara Prime was different. The sun rose like a red flame through the mist, turning the palace towers into spears of gold. Commander Elias Grant stood on his balcony. Watching the alien city below, it looked peaceful, but he could feel the tension beneath its beauty. The Fox Queen ruled through fear, yet her people still bowed to her with respect, not hatred. He couldn't forget what he saw the night before, the image of her crying, the hologram of the laughing child, the broken whisper of apology. It haunted him like a dream he couldn't escape. He had come to negotiate peace, but now he wanted something else. He wanted to understand her, the Queen's attendant. A silver-furred guard named Kale appeared at his door. "Her Majesty summons you to the council chamber," he said coldly. Elias nodded and followed him through the endless crystal corridors. Every step echoed softly. Every wall glowed faintly with blue light. It felt like walking inside a living creature's veins. Inside the council hall, the Fox Queen sat upon her high throne, her tails resting like flowing silk behind her. Around her stood her ministers, sharp-eyed, fox-like beings who looked at Elias as if he were an intruder. "Commander Grant," Sarathis said, her voice calm and measured, "your people claim they seek peace. Yet 3 human warships entered my border this morning." Elias froze. He had no knowledge of that. "That's impossible," he said quickly. Earth Command didn't approve. She raised a clawed hand. Silencing him, "Do not lie to me," she said, her golden eyes narrowing. "I have the transmission logs, signed by your admiral himself." The council erupted in low growls and whispers, accusing humanity of betrayal. Elias felt the weight of their gazes pressing down on him. But even through the noise, he noticed something strange. The Queen looked tired, not angry. Her claws dug into her throne, but her eyes were distant, pained. "I will speak with my command," Elias said. "There must be a misunderstanding." "Misunderstandings," she said softly, almost to herself. "Cost lives, Commander." After the meeting, Kyle escorted him back to his quarters, but Elias didn't rest. He couldn't. The image of her tears and her words echoed in his mind that night. He opened his datapad and accessed the Vixaran network. He knew it was forbidden, but curiosity was stronger than fear. Hours of searching led him to a hidden archive, a sealed military record labeled Project Star Daughter. The file was encrypted, but Elias managed to open fragments. There he saw images of a small fox child with golden fur, the same child he saw in the hologram. The file mentioned a human raid on the planet Helion 9, an accidental bombing that destroyed a civilian refuge. The Fox Queen's daughter had been there. Elias leaned back, his breath heavy. "That's why she hates us," he whispered. "That's why she cries." Suddenly, the door opened. He jumped, closing his datapad instantly. The Queen herself stood there alone, no guards this time. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "You humans," she said quietly, "are very bad at hiding things." Elias bowed slightly. "I wasn't spying," he said. "I just wanted to understand." She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "Understanding is dangerous here," she said. "Empathy is a weakness, and then why do you cry for someone you lost?" he asked before he could stop himself. The air froze. Her tail stiffened. Her eyes widened for a heartbeat, and then her face hardened again. "You heard nothing," she said sharply, turning to leave. Elias spoke again, his voice calm but firm. "Your Majesty, I saw a mother mourning her child, not a heartless queen." Her steps stopped. Silence filled the room. He thought she might order him executed, but instead, she said something he didn't expect. "A mother dies with her child, Commander," she whispered. "What remains is only a mask." Then she left him alone in the dark. Later that night, Elias followed a faint light through the halls. It led him to a small garden deep within the palace, a secret place filled with silver flowers glowing in the moonlight. There, beneath a crystal statue of the lost child, the Fox Queen knelt again alone. This time she didn't cry. She just looked at the sky, her eyes distant, as if waiting for an answer that would never come. Elias placed something beside the statue, a single white flower from Earth, fragile and small. The same flower his mother once told him symbolized hope after sorrow. When Sarathis noticed it the next morning, she said nothing. But when Elias entered the throne room, she looked at him differently, not with suspicion but with quiet curiosity. For the first time there was no coldness in her gaze, only a question and a silent, cautious whisper in her eyes. Who are you really, human? Days passed like quiet waves across Vixara Prime. The palace of the Fox Queen remained a world of silence and glowing corridors. Yet something unseen had changed. Commander Elias Grant could feel it. The guards no longer looked at him with pure hostility, and even the palace attendants bowed with a hint of curiosity. It was as if the Queen's secret sadness had softened the air around her. Elias spent his mornings studying Vixaran customs, his evenings writing reports to Earth Command, but his nights were restless. He kept hearing the faint echo of her voice, the quiet tremble behind her strength. He couldn't remove the image of her kneeling beneath the statue, a ruler who hid her pain behind steel and ceremony. Then one morning a new transmission came from Earth Command. It was short and clear. Maintain observation. Avoid emotional involvement. The Queen is a potential threat. Use her trust if necessary. Elias read it twice, the words cutting deeper each time. They wanted him to manipulate her, to treat her grief like a weapon. He closed the message and stared at the floor. They don't understand, he murmured. She's not what they think. That evening, he was invited once again to dine with the Queen. The grand chamber was dimly lit by floating blue crystals. The air smelled faintly of silver blossoms. The Queen sat across from him, her every movement calm. Deliberate, perfect. You have been quiet. Commander, she said softly, pouring a dark drink into her glass. Are humans not used to silence? Elias smiled faintly. Humans talk too much, he said. But sometimes silence speaks louder. A flicker of amusement passed across her face, a tiny, almost invisible smile. Perhaps, she replied, though silence can also hide too much. He hesitated, then said, I found the memorial garden. I hope you don't mind. Her golden eyes locked onto his. The room seemed to still. You placed the earth flower, she said quietly. Do you know what it means to my people when a human offers a flower? Elias shook his head. No. It means forgiveness, she whispered. But I have none left to give. The words hit him harder than any weapon. He wanted to speak, to tell her that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. But before he could, a guard entered hastily and bowed. Your Majesty. Urgent message. Human ships have entered orbit. Elias stood instantly. That's impossible, he said. I didn't authorize. The Queen raised a hand to silence him. Your people have come uninvited, she said, her calm voice colder than ever. They orbit above my world with weapons charged. The council summoned immediately. Ministers shouted, guards rushed, alarms echoed faintly through the crystal halls. Elias followed the Queen to the command chamber, the great hollow table showing 3 human warships above the planet. Their weapon grids shimmered like angry stars. Commander Grant, she said, her tone sharp now. This is your doing? No, he said firmly. My command acts without me. Convenient, she replied bitterly. Elias stepped closer to the hologram, typing in a code that forced open a secure channel. His voice carried across the stars. This is Commander Grant. Cease your approach. This planet is under diplomatic status. Stand down. Static, then a cold human voice replied. Negative, Commander. Earth Command suspects the Queen plans another strike. We are here to secure peace through control. The Queen's eyes burned with anger. Control, she repeated. So this is the human definition of peace. Elias turned to her. Desperate, please, give me time. I can stop this. She stared at him for a long moment, then said softly, You speak as if you care. I do, he said simply. More than my orders allow. Silence filled the chamber. Her tails moved slowly behind her, her gaze unreadable. Then she said something no one expected. Then prove it, Commander. Stand with me. Not above me. The human fleet began charging weapons, blue lines forming along the orbital ships. The palace guards prepared for defense. Ministers screamed about betrayal. Chaos spread through the halls like fire. Elias made his choice. He removed his insignia pin, the symbol of Earth Command, and placed it on the hollow table. If they fire, he said, they'll fire on one of their own. Gasps filled the room. The Queen's expression changed again, softer this time, almost human. She stepped forward, her voice lowering to a whisper. You would defy your own species? He nodded. Sometimes peace means disobedience. She looked at him long and hard, her eyes shimmering with something unfamiliar. Respect, maybe even hope. When the human fleet demanded confirmation to strike, Elias answered, "Any attack on Vixara Prime is an attack on me." The channel went silent. The fleet hesitated, and for the first time in decades, no shots were fired. The Queen turned away, hiding her trembling hands. "You are reckless, human," she said softly. "But perhaps that is why you are dangerous." He smiled faintly. "Or maybe that's why we survive." That night, for the first time, she dismissed her guards and invited him to walk in the moonlit gardens beside her. They spoke of stars, of war, and of loss. The palace that once echoed with fear now hummed with quiet understanding. And when Elias looked at her face in the moonlight, he realized something powerful. The Fox Queen's mask was beginning to crack. Not from weakness, but from trust. The next dawn broke red over Vixara Prime. The sky looked like burning glass, and the palace hummed with silent dread. Commander Elias Grant stood beside the Fox Queen on her balcony, staring upward where 3 human warships floated like dark suns. The uneasy peace he had fought for now balanced on a single breath. "They will not leave," Sarathis said quietly, her golden fur catching the light. "Your admirals wait for a reason to strike." Elias clenched his fists. "They fear what they don't understand," he said. "And they never met the woman I met." She turned her gaze on him, calm but full of hidden storms. "Careful, human. Admiration can turn into chains." Below them, the capital city prepared for defense. Soldiers moved through the streets. Shields shimmered above the palace walls. Vixaran were banners unfurled like rivers of fire. The people were afraid, yet they looked to their queen for strength. Elias followed her to the command hall, where glowing maps floated in the air. The human fleet had begun lowering orbit. The air vibrated faintly with energy readings. "They are locking weapons," one guard said, his voice shaking. The Queen's ministers shouted for retaliation. "Destroy them first," they cried. "Show them the power of Vixara." Sarathis raised her hand, and the room fell silent. "If we strike first," she said coldly, "we become what they believe we are." Her calmness silenced everyone. But Elias saw her claws trembling slightly against the hollow table. He realized the truth, that she was terrified. Not for herself, but for her people. He moved closer, lowering his voice. "Let me speak to them again. They'll listen to me." She met his eyes. "They already branded you a traitor for standing with me." "Then let me earn the title," he said. And before anyone could stop him, he opened the communications channel again. His voice rang through the void. "This is Commander Grant. If you open fire, you'll start a war that ends humanity's honor forever." The Admiral's cold reply came seconds later. "You've gone native, Commander. Step aside or be marked hostile." The Queen's guards aimed their weapons at the ceiling as energy fields rippled through the palace. Elias turned to Sarathis. "They won't stop," he said. "They think you're preparing to attack." "Maybe they're right," she whispered, her tails flicking like angry flames. "I am tired of bowing to fear." He shook his head. "If you fire back, everything you've suffered, your daughter, your people, your tears, which will mean nothing." For a moment she said nothing. Her eyes closed, and he saw the mask begin to break again. Her voice came out softer than he expected. "You think one human's kindness can undo centuries of blood?" "No," Elias said quietly, "but it can start something better." A blinding flash cut across the sky. One of the human ships had fired, not at the palace, but at a Vixaran satellite. The explosion rippled like thunder through the clouds. The entire hall shook, crystals shattered. Alarm screamed. "Shields up!" shouted Kyle, the Queen's loyal guard. "Your Majesty, we must retreat." But Sarathis didn't move. She stood still, watching the fire streak across the heavens. "So this is peace," she said. "Born in the mouths of cannons." Elias grabbed her hand. "You can still stop this." She looked down at their hands, human skin against golden fur, and her breath caught. In that moment, she saw something she hadn't felt since her daughter's death. Trust. Then a blast struck the outer dome. The impact threw them both to the floor. Smoke filled the chamber. Guards rushed in. Dragging them toward the lower tunnels, the Queen stumbled, her crown falling. Elias helped her up. "We have to move." He shouted outside. The city burned with blue fire. Human and Vixaran ships clashed in the sky, beams of light carving through the clouds. The war had begun in the chaos. Kale turned to the Queen. "Your Majesty, The escape vessel is ready, Sarathis hesitated. Looking at Elias, "Come with me," she said. "Your people will kill you for this." He shook his head. "Someone has to stop them if I stay silent. This will never end." She grabbed his arm, her voice breaking for the first time. "They'll destroy you," Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe, but not before I make them remember who they were supposed to be." He stepped toward the communicator again, ignoring the smoke and shaking walls. He opened a broad signal to the human fleet. His voice filled every ship. "You call her a monster, but I've seen her bleed. I've seen her cry for a child she lost because of us. If you have any soul left, stand down." There was silence. Only static and the echo of distant thunder. Then slowly, one by one, the human ships powered down their weapons. The Queen stared at the display, disbelief in her eyes. "They stopped," she whispered. "They actually stopped." Elias turned to her. Exhausted. "Not for long," he said. "They'll come again stronger." She took a deep breath, then touched the emblem on her chest. "Then we'll rebuild something different," she said softly. "Not empire, not war, something alive." He looked at her, his voice trembling. "Together?" Her eyes met his, and for the first time, she smiled, small, real, unguarded. "Together," she said. The fires of Vixara Prime burned for 3 days before silence finally returned. The sky that once shimmered with warships now hung empty and gray. Commander Elias Grant sat alone in the ruins of the diplomatic wing. His uniform torn, his body weak, but his mind still sharp. The world he had come to save was wounded yet alive. From the balcony he could see the Queen's palace still standing, half broken but unbowed. Soldiers and medics moved through the courtyards tending to the injured, rebuilding walls from ashes. The war was over. Not because one side had won, but because one human had refused to let it continue. Elias was arrested the next morning. Human troops landed and surrounded him, faces hidden behind metal visors. "Commander Elias Grant," said the lead officer, "you are charged with treason, conspiracy, and collaboration with the enemy." He didn't resist. "If compassion is treason," he said quietly, "then I accept the charge." They took him away in silence. No applause, no gratitude, just the echo of boots on alien stone. As he was led through the corridor, he caught one last glimpse of her. The Fox Queen, Lady Sarathis, standing among her people, her golden fur dimmed by dust and blood. But her eyes still bright, she said nothing. But a small nod passed between them. A silent promise neither would break. Weeks later, he awoke in a holding cell aboard the human flagship Resolute. The room was cold and colorless, the kind of place built to erase memory. Yet every night he could still hear her voice, soft and distant, whispering in his mind. Together. On the third night, a guard entered and dropped a sealed data crystal onto his table. "Delivery for the prisoner," he muttered before leaving. Elias stared at it for a long time, then activated it. A faint hologram shimmered into life, and there she was, Sarathis, standing beneath the twin moons of Vixara, her fur clean, her crown gone, her voice calm. "Commander," she said gently, "or perhaps I should say Elias, I do not know if this message will reach you, but I must speak it regardless." She paused, her eyes soft. "You gave me something no one else in the galaxy ever dared. Mercy." Elias swallowed hard, his throat tight. "When I was told humans had no honor, I believed it," she continued. "When they said you felt nothing but pride, I accepted it. But you proved them wrong. You stood beside me when even my own people doubted. You saw the child in the monster?" Her voice trembled slightly. "Because of you, the humans left my skies. Because of you, I rebuilt my home without hate. And for the first time in many years, I slept through the night. Without tears." The hologram flickered as her words grew softer. "You once said peace means disobedience. Perhaps you were right. Perhaps peace means daring to care." She smiled faintly, a quiet, tired smile. "When you look at the stars again, know that one of them still burns for you." The message ended. The crystal dimmed and the cell felt smaller than before. Elias sat in silence for a long time, staring at the empty air, then whispered. She finally slept months later. His sentence was reduced, not because he was forgiven, but because the truth could not be hidden. Reports from Vixara showed recovery, trade ships, and new treaties signed without a single gun fired. Humanity called it the Silent Accord. Though very few understood what had truly silenced the guns, Elias was reassigned to a quiet outpost on the edge of known space. A place where forgotten officers watched dying suns and wrote reports no one read. He didn't complain. He spent his nights looking through the viewing window, watching the distant stars and wondering which one she had meant. Sometimes he thought he could still hear her voice when the wind hummed through the metal corridors, soft, steady, strong. One evening, a young lieutenant found him sitting by the viewport, holding a small pendant shaped like a fox's eye. The lieutenant asked quietly, "Sir, do you ever regret what you did?" Elias smiled faintly, his eyes reflecting the stars. "No," he said. "I regret that it took a monster to teach us how to be human." He looked out again, whispering to the emptiness, "Sleep well, Sir Athos. The galaxy is quieter because of you." And far away, on the blue-green world of Vixara Prime, beneath its twin moons, the Fox Queen stood in her garden once more, looking at a single white earth flower blooming beside her daughter's statue. She reached down and touched its soft petals, her lips curving into the smallest of smiles. "For the first time in years," she whispered to the stars, "I slept and I dreamed.